Welcome to Sullivan Street, where Chris, I think we have our first what I would call double feature today, which is that
What sort?
next on our album, recap and roundup going through the Crow's catalog, we're up to New Amsterdam live at Heineken Music Hall, and that'll be fun to get into that. But the person joining us to review the album is a special guest, himself, and we'll spend time first interviewing him, which is Kyle Meredith. Kyle, welcome to the podcast.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me here.
So
Ready
great.
to completely nerd out with you guys.
Yeah, that's good.
That's funny, and that's
Deep.
that's what James Campion said when he joined the podcast. He was like, he goes, in my podcast, even with Adam, I'm not allowed to geek out about the Crows because he wants to talk about other things. So, so let's, Kyle, we'll just start real quickly by the question we ask everybody. And I, as I said to you before we started the podcast, I wrote you specifically because unlike the other 20 interviews of him over the last 5 years, I said, okay, this guy really is a fan. Now, they all say they are, but this guy knows some of the hardcore things. So when did you become, what you would call a Counting Crows fan? And why did, how is that like, you obviously still are a fan, right? People become fans and they either stay or drop off. So talk about that.
So I'm from the 94 crew. I grew up in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky, small town, Litchfield, Kentucky. One of those towns that you can buy live bait from a vending machine, that type of thing. So, it's not like we had the cool record store around, we lived and died by MTV and pop radio, or you had a cool friend. And I just happen to have a cool friend. I'd love to know how he learned about it. But I'm sure it was just as, Mr. Jones was probably just getting started. And he did. He passed it over to me. And it wasn't what we were listening to right then because, the idea of Counting Crows as the alternative band, I know has been talked about on the podcast too.
Yeah.
But it still didn't sound like, they didn't sound like Green Day, and they didn't sound like Soundgarden and all of this stuff. So it surprises me now that I look back on that, we took to it so quickly, just considering our environment, but it was undeniable. Him passing me the tape or the CD or whatever, and then just it hitting. So I've been listening to the Counting Crows since 94. Saw them the first time live on the next tour, on the Satellites tour.
Oh, wow.
With an unknown Fiona Apple opening.
Okay.
And that's a different story. I was about to go and I was like, no, it's not a Fiona Apple podcast.
Okay.
You can tell that one too, though, if you want to.
Well, but anyway, yeah. So it became like I'd moved up to right outside of Louisville at that point. And those friends were huge Counting Crows fans. And so I'd sort of found my people. And Satellite, like for as much as I liked August, it was Satellites that did it. I was talking about my wife before I came down here, because of the bands that I would say I'm a little bit extra on, dare to use the word fanatical sometimes, like Pearl Jam. That's the one, like all through my teen 20 years. Like I've seen them, 60 something times and all that stuff. Like I've came to know those guys, they're on the show a lot. But because I listened to them so much and I did so many deep dives beyond, and I got to know them, I sort of listen to them less now. It's sort of one of those things. REM is the same way. They're in my holy, trinity of bands. Counting Crows has always been so special to me that I've, not that I don't, listen when I, but I've also sort of held certain parts of it at a distance, so it keeps that magic, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like if I get my say in things, A Long December will be the last song I ever hear in my life, which when you're a big fan is almost like if you're a Zeppelin fan, you're like Stairway to Heaven is the last song. Like, really? That's the song? But there's so much magic in that song from where it came from to me that, and I feel like that I can do that about so many different songs on so many different Counting Crows albums. So that's all to say. It's like from that moment, they instantly were something beyond just about any other band I'd ever heard, and has continued throughout their entire career. I think this part 2 of Butter Miracle is still one of the greatest things that they've ever done.
It's great. Yeah.
You know, it's a very rare point where I don't think that they've met that mark, and just to see them keep doing that, like, how lucky are we as fans to have a band that continues to be able to do that, even if it takes them way too long to get around to do it.
Which
Let's
we'll
not
talk
even
about when we get to the album we're talking about. But yeah.
Yeah, let's not even get into the 2010s. Thanks for all of that, guys.
Yeah, right.
It is
So,
interesting though, that song "Long December." It's interesting you picking up on that, because it's such an interesting thing with that song, where I think Duritz would say that's his favorite, the best song he's ever written.
right.
And so many people, myself included, many of our guests would say that that is one of like the most important songs for them.
Mhm.
It's really weird, I think, for a band to have one of their most popular songs be both something that people feel very deeply personally about, and then also the band feel sort of comfortable about that. Yeah, this is not, because most, I mean, obviously, Counting Crows and Mr. Jones, for example,
Mhm.
or REM and Losing My Religion, right? They're People have weird relationships sometimes with their biggest songs. It is a really unique thing with that song that everyone's just kind of like, yeah, that one. Yeah, I don't. No one complained. Like, they played it every show, it seems like, since 1996. No one complains about that.
I can hear it
I would
every
never
single
complain.
show.
I don't
Yeah.
mind. Yeah, no, I do not mind at all. Um,
But it's the same thing, when Pearl Jam plays Even Flow or Black, like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. It's it's like I don't need to hear those songs anymore, or it's stuff like that. But you're exactly right. How rare it is. I hadn't actually considered that point, but yeah, and it is.
yeah,
That song is nothing but complete magic. And just about everything he touched at that point in his career, with the Wallflowers and everything else, it's like there was just something happening in that, yeah.
No, it's funny. I agree with you, and even with the gaps and everything. And I think I said this in one of the podcasts that one. I mean, I don't know. I guess I want to say I got head over heels for Crows by about the third album, because to me, part of it is about that consistency and about recognizing that it wasn't just the radio hits. Like, they have so much depth to them, and all the musicians are superstars in my mind. I think they're all so good and this consistent. And even though there's gap, just because it got released this weekend, I thought the same thing, to be honest. I'm a big fan of the Mission Impossible movies. I haven't seen the latest because I like to wait a couple weeks, right? Not fight the crowds a little bit. But one thing I always appreciated is maybe not everyone's a 10 out of 10, but they had consistency, and they, right, they went really, at least what I thought about the albums, about the movies over time, over 4 decades, right? Because I think that first movie was 95 or something
Yeah,
like
it
that.
was around there. Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah. So anyway, that's always, it's so tough to do it. It never happens in really any kind of movie series or yeah, band, and that's why they continue. Yes. I apologize that I almost didn't get into your bio. I didn't even explain who you are. I just assumed my audience knew, and listened to your great interview with Adam a couple of weeks ago. But Kyle works for what is it? Is it FPK in
FPK.
WFPK, right?
in Louisville? And so you've always lived in Kentucky, right?
Yeah, I've always lived in Kentucky. I do. As I say, I get to travel a lot, and it's really nice to come back home
Yeah.
here for all the great reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in radio for God. This will be my 25th year.
Oh, wow.
So I started in 2000 at an alternative station here in Louisville, and then I started FPK in 2008, and just kind of worked my way up. I became the program director this past January.
Congratulations.
So yeah,
I
thank
mean,
you.
how many? And then, of course, you've published, I guess, right, short and long form articles in all of the major music, outlets: Rolling Stone, Billboard, Spin. And I'll just plug you now, and you can, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you both. There's your interview podcast, that you had with Adam, which is right. Oh, why am I forgetting the title now?
It's my name. I tried to make it easy so
But
that wouldn't be the case. It's Kyle Meredith with.
with. That's what I was saying. Kyle Meredith with. I thought there was two more words in it, but yeah, Kyle Meredith with. But also on your and that's available on YouTube and streaming via NPR. It's the official NPR podcast. And you also, though, if you go to the website, and we'll put this on the connected to the episode of your radio station, there's actually, you also have every day there is a your show is
Yeah,
available
I
to
do.
listen
I do
to.
a show at 6 p.m. Eastern every night. It's a 4-hour show,
Oh,
and
okay.
I'm a big believer in recycling everything that I do. And so my show. So what happens is, I guess the short form is, I'll do the interview, and first it goes up to the website Consequence of Sound.
Yep.
Um, we've sort of have a partnership there, so it kind of debuts there, but it goes to all my YouTube channel and all the podcast places. And then I usually wait a few weeks, and then I'll double dip again with that same interview and run it on my show on FBK that night, portions of it. And yeah, and I've done that with all the interviews for even before this interview series. There was one before it. Well, it was two before it was Speed of Sound, but the big one was the weekly feed, and that was syndicated around the country. And I still will go back and take some of those interviews and then replay them, which I don't know why more people in my situation don't. Like, you do the interview and then it's almost like, well, we did it. Now we'll never revisit it again. It's like, why would you do that if it's good content? Trust me, the majority of the people on planet Earth never knew it existed. So give it another whirl.
Yeah.
So yeah, that happens there. And all of that keeps me insanely busy.
Yeah,
That
and I
just
highly
yes,
recommend, if you're a music person, you haven't dove into like Kyle's archive and like WFPK's archive. There's so much there. I forget how I first came in contact with WFPK. Maybe like I think some indie band was playing a session, and I was like, oh, that maybe it was Aquaville River. I feel like you guys have done some stuff
Yeah.
with them. And then I went, oh, I wonder what else is here, and just spent years just listening. Oh, who's coming in and playing Louisville? I guess there's going to be a good session I can listen to. So highly
Thanks.
recommend that if you're an omnivore of music. They have so much
I
stuff there.
appreciate that. Yeah,
That's an interesting point. I guess my instinct that you made about repo, my instinct is like, oh yeah, let them find it. Once it's out forever. But it's funny that just happened this week, where on Reddit, which is the only place I personally post, Chris posts some stuff on Facebook, but somebody started writing all these questions about round here alts. And I felt a little jerky at the time, but I said, well, we actually have an episode from a year and a half ago where we did a deep dive, and here's the playlist of all. And then a bunch of people thumbed up. Oh, I had no idea. So you're right. It's worth
most
talking
people
about
have
that.
never seen anything that you've ever done.
Yeah.
You can keep regenerating that over and over and over in every different way, forever.
Dude, but as I'm kind of, or I used to be a big radio nerd, not so much anymore. It's what I really wanted to get into, as if I had a first love and what I thought I would do for a living, it was radio. And in fact, Kyle, it was like in college when I was playing around a little bit, and I, was severely untalented and won't listen to those tapes. But the somebody said like I should get into NPR, and I did actually was on NPR a little bit volunteering because
Nice.
they thought I could do the car talk and the All Things Considered intro pretty well for that
Nicely,
kind of station.
yeah. The voice is right there, right in the pocket.
So, but what I wanted to say is that before we get into some other stuff, that I mean, how rare is it nowadays with corporate-owned media that you can be a program director of a station that people actually listen to the music, right? I mean, college radio station might have the program director maybe or something, or I know they have small forums, but even program directors now have very limited choices in what they can actually do.
I mean, that's the great difference in being in public radio as a first, to commercial radio. Which again, that's where I started starting commercial radio at WFPK. It's called a AAA station, which is it's not a genre, but it is a format, and we're the only one that's like that.
Okay.
A jazz station plays jazz music. A pop station plays pop music. A AAA station, what the fuck is AAA? And it's shortened, it's adult alternative. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means either. Well, it's college radio for adults, but also everyone else. I said it. I met a person at a party once, and they said, "Oh, what kind of station is it?" And I said, "Oh, it's AAA." And I was expecting to get, "What is that?" And he goes, I said, "Do you know what that is?" He goes, "Means you play a lot of Wilco." I was like, "Yeah, it does. It does mean we play a lot of Wilco."
Wait, what's the third A about again?
Adult album alternative.
Oh, the album. I forgot the album part.
Yeah, that's the only bit dated part
Right,
about
right.
it. I mean, it just from what it meant when it started in
Yeah.
the beginning of the '90s, which is sort of in the same way that album-oriented rock AOR
Yeah, exactly.
came from AM radio when FM started.
Yeah.
It just meant that you could go deeper. You didn't have to live and die by the singles. You didn't have to wait for whatever to come through, which we still really pride on ourselves on. So. but yeah, it is. Our hosts, it's sort of a marriage. I'll choose some songs for the hour, especially like the new, because we still have a current rotation, and some songs that sort of keep us uniform. But the hosts really do have a lot of freedom every hour to kind of play what they want too. So it's to be a radio station in 2025.
Right.
It's not lost on us. That's you know but
Yeah.
there's always been something that's trying to kill radio. There's always been something.
Yep, that's right.
And there's a study that comes out every few years, and every few years it says the same thing. To everyone's surprise, the majority of Americans, at least, almost by like 70% of the country, still get their music from radio, even though you wouldn't think that. Now it changes when you break it down into specific demos. Like if you're 13 years old now, you're not growing up with MTV and the radio. It's
Mm.
that's obviously different. So that's YouTube and that's Spotify.
Except
But
when I have my kids in the car, I usually put on the radio. I mean, I sometimes put there's some CDs I've got that I either like or that I know that they'll love, some pop and etc. But I'll put on the radio a lot. Now, where I live, surprisingly, there's not a lot of like AAA stations or whatever. It's more pop oriented here in LA. But
Yeah, New York radio's not, other than WFUV, is not
FUV.
great
I
at the
almost worked for
moment.
FUV. Yeah.
Oh, that makes
Yeah.
FPK, FUV, XPN. There's like a
XPN.
top 5 of like the great indie like rock stations.
We're all like best friends. We all know each other. One of the guys that runs XPN ran FPK before. It's his job before. So and then FUV, Reedy Houston. I knew her forever and ever, and yeah, it's great people up there. Yeah.
Before we get into Adam and the Crows, I just thought this would be interesting, and I'm guessing I was going to put you on the spot and quiz you that for your podcast. Do you know? And you've interviewed so many famous musicians. Do you know what your 3 top videos are by views?
Oh. My top 3 videos by views. You'd think I know this because I really do stay like daily by the hour clued into my analytics sometimes. And it's funny that I don't know if 21 Pilots.
21 Pilots is number 1. So
Yeah.
you're number 1.
And I did that one like 12 years ago or something. So that's not even a reason.
And that's why it got my attention, because they are not the most, famous person that you interviewed. I mean,
Right.
so 21 Pilots, yeah, it has, right, inching towards 250,000 views.
Yeah.
So.
After that, I started to lose track. I mean, I know like Les Claypool's on my show
number
like
2,
every other week.
Number 2. So that's one of the from Primus. Yep.
Yeah, he's on here a lot. I can't tell you number 3.
Arctic Monkeys.
Arctic Monkeys. Yeah.
But that got my attention because that's how I sorted it. I was like, okay, what are some, and again, I know that's just the YouTube, but then I saw, geez, there's all these, Michael Stipes down there and Moby and Sting and Arctic Monkeys. But that's just somehow that's just how it works, right?
As I say, slave to the algorithm, man. It's you never know. You don't.
You never know.
So that's so wild. So you got to so when I looked this week at least on the YouTube channel, I think there are now 3 interviews with Adam. Have you interviewed him more than 3 times?
No, it's just the 3 times.
Okay.
We've met more and we've talked more.
Okay.
But we've only done officially 3 interviews. The first one was I think that was during the Outlaw Road show, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And it was fine. I remember having a good time. It was fine. I remember that he sort of let us go because it was a tight 10, tight 20. And then he kind of waved off the manager and they're like, you got to get to the stage. And he's like, yeah, give me another minute. And I was like, that's decent. But I also remember coming out and going, God, I hope I get to do another one. I can do this better. I can do this so much better. And it took a few years. But luckily we did get around.
Yeah, and that one was in person. See, that's why it was a little odd. And you had to focus on that. So you had to promote that and then talk about, what's it like to play with? Right. So I totally understand you couldn't get into some of that was not the appropriate time to get into the intricacies of their catalog.
No. He really did want to talk about a lot of the, the other bands and stuff like that. I do remember my favorite line, because I think I just made an offhanded, I don't remember how exactly we said it. I remember making an offhanded joke about the whole celebrity thing in the 90s,
yes.
And him going, man, if I slept with half the people that,
he said that.
say I do.
By the way, I guess that's that. I mean, I guess I don't know if we talked about this, Chris. That's kind of the point of the holiday in Spain, right? It's like the
Mhm.
stories how we slept with all the movie stars, right? That I think that's what he's making fun of a little bit. That he didn't. That according to him, at least. I mean, I'm guessing what had happened is that most of the women that he was connected to, he either hung out in a circle or maybe he went on a couple dates with. But that's different than
Right.
bringing back to your apartment or whatever. So yeah, no, actually, but what's interesting, Kyle, is the one line that actually caught my attention, which I think was very, I think the word is prescient. And I don't think Adam realized it at the time because of when that interview was that right before Saturday night, Sunday mornings, or right after?
That would have been
After.
after.
Right after, right after. But that was kind of the demarcation when he got less personal with his songs, and you actually asked him about that. Like, are sometimes things too personal? And he liked the question, and he was kind of
Nice.
thinking about it off the top of his head, and then he's like, oh, the more personal, the better, and all this kind of stuff. But actually, he made a point, and even mentioned in interviews to be a little less not
Yeah.
little less personal and more indirectly personal, I guess, where it can sneak out. The personal can sneak out through third person stories or something like that. So that was
I'm glad we got to
interesting.
talk. I don't remember that. Yeah, but it's been a long time since I heard that one. But
Yeah, but how I mean, I guess this happens with all of the people you talk to. I mean, Adam talks about meeting his, like he still has trouble having a conversation with Bruce Springsteen. He always brings that one up
Mhm.
as an example. But how cool is it for you that you've got to meet and talk to, both on the record and off the record, some of your, I guess, idols, for lack of a
Yeah,
better word.
I mean, it's really to quote Adam, because he has his disassociation thing,
Yeah.
and I sort of I don't have what he has. I'm not trying to make light of that, but it is sort of like that, right? It's Severance. It's
Mm.
you know I go into the elevator to do the interviews,
Yep.
and then it's only afterwards. I mean, yeah, it's those are the moments, right? Having Paul McCartney, saying my name and
Yeah.
joking and all this stuff, and on and all those moments. Yeah, I've kind of had to shut it off completely right before the interview, and
Of
luckily
course.
it is
Yep.
kind of like a switch there, and maybe you do the same thing, but it's that moment right afterward, right after I'm done, that if I'm home, I'll like run upstairs immediately and tell my wife everything that just happened. It's like, oh my god, and Adam said this, and then Adam, it's like I was talking to Hank Azaria, and he started doing the Simpson voices, and
Oh yeah!
I mean,
Oh, how cool would that be? Oh, I'm so jealous of that. No, I felt the same way. I like, and and it's neat about you in particular that you're kind of known for this, and that's what I mean. You're known for not just interviewing one or two, but a wide variety of famous people through the decade. No, I felt the same way when I interviewed like Matt Molly.
mhm,
It was just a great feeling. I always wanted to talk to them. Yeah, kept it professional, right?
mhm. I'll tell
And
you though,
yeah.
I was in Philly for the Counting Crows show at the non-convention,
Mhm.
and uh and so we went back afterward, and Adam and I were talking about stuff. I'm still ribbing him about Eggman. He was like, it's not gonna happen, man, it's not gonna happen. I was like,
Oh, was this? Oh, you saw him after your interview?
yeah,
You're
after
saying?
the interview.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so we were backstage, and I was just kind of nudging about that, and he's like, it's the whole joke and everything. Anyway,
Oh, he
um
no, that quite by the way, that question comes up every 2 months on Reddit. Some random person will join and ask about Eggman. And before you get to your end of the story, I actually think one of the most interesting things of that interview with you is that he admitted he actually kind of likes the song and says it's a great pop song. See, I never even heard him say that. I think what
trying
used
to
to
get through in the
yeah.
door with Rat Kings, the
Yeah.
song.
Yeah.
Like, because that's what I keep telling. I was like, listen, man, it's not about you this time. This time it's about us. And it's amazing, even a morsel, not even the song. Like, if he just works the lyrics into, it's like it's just gonna everybody's gonna flip their lid, and that's all you got to do. You don't have to play the song; you just have to drop the lyrics in there, which he does every time, all the time.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah, exactly. Got
yeah,
plenty of opportunities. Just drop some lines in,
that's it. And that's it. Our day is made. My day is made. That's all I need, and it would work so well in that song. And anyway, so we were leaving, and he was already focused elsewhere, and he rounded the turn, and me and my wife were headed out. We'd already said goodbye. We weren't in the same part of the hallway anymore. And then I heard, "All right, Kyle, I'll see you next time, man." And when you're talking about like meeting your heroes, like that was the moment.
Yes.
I didn't see him. We weren't looking at each other. We were in two parts of a hallway, and right before he went out the door, he thought, I'm going to tell Kyle bye one more time. I'm like, done. I'm
Yeah.
done. I don't need anything else today. I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt the same way recently. I didn't want to say too much about it, but I've sent you the video and it's up on our Sullivan Street YouTube now. When Kobe Brown played with Emmy and they played Hospital, and I got to talk to Emmy briefly. But one cool thing is that I got to talk to Emmy, but it wasn't the conversation. I mean, that was good too. But Kobe in the beginning of one of the songs, and then Emmy said something later, but actually said, "Oh, somebody interviewed me about this song recently on the Sullivan Street podcast. They're there." And then Emmy also like clapped and said, "Thank you for doing the podcast," basically. And so,
Nice.
as you said, that was the moment.
Mhm.
Like not like, "Oh, who's this kind of weird fan did a podcast?" Like, "Thank you for doing that." And I was like, "Hey, that night's done now. I can
That's
go
it.
home. See you
All you
later."
need. That's right.
Oh, by the way, you made a great analogy on the 2001, not analogy, connection, because we do these on the podcast. So one thing that all Crows fans like is the repeated themes. And Adam said with his interview with you that sometimes they're deliberate.
Mhm.
Oh, I should reference this or whatever. But at other times they're not deliberate, but it's just he's the same person, and that
It's the
maybe
thing that's rumbling around inside his brain.
exactly, and maybe
Paraphrase, yeah.
Maria had an effect on him 20 years later, not just 1 year later. So they could reference that. And I said something. So we sometimes we look for these little connections. Like I like all the references to satellites and et cetera. And I said to Chris on the last podcast with the Butter Miracle that I thought, what was it that, on the song, what is it, the Virginia song? I think he says something like across the garden, but I thought he was going to say across the wire. And I was like, oh, no, he didn't do it. But you made a connection that I didn't think I ever thought of, which was the "Can You See Me?"
Mm.
That comes up all the time. And then Adam even said, "Oh yeah, good one. Oh yeah, and you forgot, Kyle. I also say it in Miller's Angels."
Right. Yeah.
So that was neat. That
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
That's the stuff that of the times I've talked with Adam that's what I want to do. I
Yeah.
want to hear that we've got business to do. I know we've got to talk about the new record and we get to talk about the new record. But there's this certain business. But and when I get down to it, that's what I want with him. It's like why is the circus so relevant throughout?
Yes,
And
that's true.
what's it going to take to get someone to write this novel? That tells the story of all of these characters within the story.
Oh, right.
And yeah, it's fun that stuff. The one I'm still kicking around, which we throw the line out there, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Was because in Spaceman, I also brought up to see if there was a possible connection also with American
Yes.
Girls, because Mr. Jones, that's the easy one, right? That's the easy one. Like,
Yeah.
I feel our narrator in Mr. Jones is now it has become Bobby, and we're hearing about
Yep.
that. But I was hoping to get a little bit further with the American Girl part of it. It's the second verse of Spaceman that talks about her, and
Yes.
yeah. But and I think I just missed that one. That one was a whiff,
Okay.
but I feel like it. For fanning here.
No, I can see that if he would say that, it wouldn't surprise me. But it sounds like a whip. But again, it might have been an indirect.
Right.
The way he. Gosh, what's funny? The Eggman thing didn't break my heart as much because I liked that he had said something positive about it. But what broke my heart a little bit is what I always hoped Adam would do, and it sounds like he just briefly flirted with the idea, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. Is to perfect and record some of these demo songs. It doesn't have to be all in one, because I even heard, and I guess I didn't have it exactly right, but when 1492 was on Saturday nights, I know that was kind of an older song, and some of those other
Yeah.
ones,
It's like Hard Candy era.
yeah, from Hard Candy. I thought it was Back from Recovering because it was a little harder, but exactly. And I thought, geez, well, it'd be great if he could do that. And what was the one he said he did go into a little bit? I forget now on your
Well,
podcast.
they worked on Marjorie a bunch of times. He talked about
Yeah.
and I guess I get, and that was actually really interesting that we were talking about that why he thought that song wouldn't work and how he tried to rework it and like what didn't, it just wouldn't go the right places, which I get as a writer. I write comedy and stuff, and sometimes you're just like, it can't, it can't untangle like something that's short. Sometimes you can't break it apart in the right ways. It was also interesting. to hear him forget Suffocate. He's talking about that one, and you're like, oh man, because that's a really good song, but I think that one's, if you can't remember what it's
Right.
called, I'm guessing that one's in the drawer. I've always hoped that they could find he's talked a lot recently about how the different pieces of stuff from Satellites and how that got like chopped up in different places. I've always hoped they would find at least whatever version was recorded for that, because it'd be interesting to hear it. I doubt they're going to play it live, but I mean, that's a great.
Yeah, I mean,
we have a terrible recording from like a Viper Room show or something in like '95.
If we can get the B-sides record, we got the covers record, one done. So it's sort of over that. But what I took away from that interview that I had never really thought about, because we're talking about the unreleased songs, or the unfinished songs that they played live, like Marjorie, and that, and this also plays into how my mind was just blown when he's like, yeah, I wrote 5 songs. These are the 5 songs, for the new suite. I was like, dude, like what confidence that these 5 songs are going to work? Like, because you hear bands like, dude, we wrote 75 songs and we picked the best 10, It's like, I wrote 5 songs and I knew these were the best 5 songs, even though he had a crisis of faith before that. But when I look back, and with exceptions, I think he's right that, like, Marjorie, it's fun to listen to. I love that, of the many cities that he names across his entire catalog, that's ours. He says Lexington, so we made it. We're in Kentucky. He says that, so we made it into the mythology. But it's not a finished song, I guess. And like, to know yourself so well.
Yeah.
I cannot name one other artist. That's not true. Rage Against the Machine said they did that. What you heard was it. They didn't record anything else. Now, I don't think that everything they recorded was absolutely the best thing they ever did. Whereas when I think about the Counting Crows, I'm like, it's everything you did is like the best thing every time. Almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, to kind of hear that, like, he cannot figure out Marjorie. Like, okay, I believe you.
Yeah.
Maybe you can. And the title track, to August, the title track, when they finally did record that.
Yes.
I don't know how you felt, but I went, oh, that's why it wasn't on the album. It's like fun to hear, but
yeah, I remember because when they played it, he played it on piano a little bit in like '03, maybe like 3 or 4 times, and you're like, well, that is 8 minutes long. It's pretty interesting, and it's fun from like a mythology perspective.
Sure.
But like, is it that or Raining in Baltimore? I think I'm taking Raining in Baltimore. And you're right. Like, there's a lot of bands. I mean, they're going on tour with Gaslight Anthem this summer. I love Gaslight Anthem. They have songs that are like the B-sides that are like, oh, that's the best song on the record. What were you thinking?
Right.
that's easily the top 2 or 3 songs there. Whereas the Crows don't really have that. They have some interesting side things and some of the covers. You go, that's interesting, but nothing quite where you're like, oh, how could they toss that one away?
Outside of Baby, I'm a Big Star Now, which he of course says, what the fuck was I thinking? I wave the Chelsea flag.
I love
the greatest songs of all time too. But yeah, absolutely.
Love and Addiction is mine, though, that I'd want him to try to fix up. But there's one thing I kind of I don't know, disagree, or this is something I'd have to say to Adam. It looks like Chris might have dropped out, but that's okay. The that I kind of there's part of me that thinks with Adam, and I know he's older, we're all older, his current songwriting process. He said with the current 5 songs that he had all these ideas, but once he couldn't believe how quick it worked once he invited 3 of the band members over. And so part of me thinks with some of these songs like Marjorie, I bet you if the whole band was there, they might be able to work through it. Because if you also talked about some of his earlier albums like Desert Life and Recovering to Satellite, some of those he wrote himself, but they only came to him super quickly when the whole band was there.
Right.
So I think sometimes that pressure on him forces his genius out. That's just my take on Adam's personality and how his genius works. I'm sure he does a lot of stuff by himself, but I also think when he's in that room with others, bouncing off ideas. So that would be my challenge to him. Revisit Marjorie
Like with everybody,
with
try to bring them
Emmy and
all in.
Millard and Jim, and you might, because they had some great, and he admits that. He said some of these songs didn't even A to Z, which is his favorite song off the new album. He said, until Emmy came in and started playing off him a little bit, that's when it became a 10 out of 10 to him. So,
Apropos to none of that, by the way, it just reminded me of this. But in our most recent interview, when he was talking about Boxcar,
oh yeah,
and he was doing he goes, and I had this melody and a coronavirus,
Right.
and he kept going. He goes, man, that's good. I want to keep that riff. Took everything I could not to tell him. I was like, has no one told you that's Buck Cherry's song that you just did? That's the Buck Cherry single. I love the cocaine. I love the cocaine.
Yeah.
I didn't want to break his heart. I'm just saying it here now. That's on record.
And I've been telling my
and
kids,
it goes a different direction.
It does luckily go a different direction. It's
Well, thank you so much for and we already mentioned on our last episode about that you found out about the Amy hit because that was one of our themes of our podcast about why Amy doesn't get played, so we know that. So, but the one that, because you brought up This Desert Life, but actually the one that there's two songs that get brought up about that, about not being played enough. Amy, of course, is the obvious one because it hasn't been played since the album was released. But the other one is All My Friends, which used to be in their rotation, and it has not been. We were surprised, like. Was it like 15 years or so?
Yeah, it's longer than it feels. I think because I sort of allied that song in High Life a little bit, and so I feel like every time I go to think, oh, it's been a while since they played All My Friends. Like, no, it's been like 15, 20 years at this point.
And David Lowery asked us which songs they were playing off that, and that's when we investigated. So, but yeah, if you get a chance to see Adam, you might ask about All My Friends, because I love that song and really want to hear it. I don't think I've heard it live. I think that's my White Whale that they would probably play and just haven't recently.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you we can go right into the album. I wanted to say originally, like, oh, this is almost their first regular official live recording, but that's not really true. I mean, because I didn't think of Across the Wire as being kind of a real live album because they were TV specials,
but
and
still,
it was such a unique.
It's my all-time favorite live album.
Yeah,
so it's a live album.
Yeah,
I was curious what, and I haven't looked back in the podcast to see, but because technically speaking, right, this would be their second live album, but there was also the
yes,
this little deal. Like, does this count?
Now, which one is that? Because we did the Woodstock.
This is live at the Fox Theater.
Ooh, we didn't do that one.
We have not done that as a full record because that was kind of a side.
Which is only 4 songs.
Okay.
Yeah. So I didn't know if that counted, but
we did the two bootleg ones, which is the Face the Promised Land and Why by the time we get to Woodstock, which I didn't realize at the time that one, by the time we get to Woodstock, and this one do share some similarities in that they're from multiple shows put together, which I really didn't know, Chris. I have to be honest, when I bought this and played it in my car going to work all the time in 2006. So I'll just say that this was released in June of 2006 from recordings in 2003, February 4, 5, 6. Chris will get into a little more about the history of this. I do want to say, though, so it was 4 years after Hard Candy. It was the kind of the live premiere of a number of these songs. I guess the ones from Desert Life and Hard Candy.
Album premiere.
Album premiere.
Yeah.
But this debuted almost in the top 50. It was number 52 in the Billboard 200 without really a lot of marketing or anything from it. And there is an accompanying. So this is where you're going to explain a little bit, Chris, that there is not only the CD album version, there is a 1 hour YouTube special which has some of the same songs. We'll talk about that, some different, and of course not all 3 days, not all of those songs made it to the CD. So Chris, I was going to give you the platform to talk about the kind of the putting together of this.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because it's 3 nights in Amsterdam, February 4th, 5th, and 6th, 2003. Interestingly, so Jim Bozius has been a member of the band for about 3 weeks publicly at this point. Ben Mize finished up at the end of 2002, and then so they'd been playing Europe, mostly the UK, for about a few weeks before this. So that's all they'd done at this point. 3 shows. There is video that presumably was shot for a potential DVD, and they decided not to release it. It was released on Access TV or whatever, HDNet or whatever that channel with all the live music shows and documentaries was called at that point. It's good footage. I've always heard that maybe they didn't like how it looked or didn't like something about it and decided not to put it out as a DVD. Other interesting things, two of the most popular songs that are from the record are bonus tracks. So Mr. Jones was a bonus on the UK version, and Big Yellow Taxi was a bonus on Best Buy. There was also an iTunes bonus track of Black and Blue, and Blues Run the Game was a Barnes and Noble bonus track. So again, if you want to date this to 2006, this is when they were attempting to see with bonus tracks how many different versions of a record at various stores they could get you to
Now we
purchase.
just do color variants. That would be the
Call, yeah, exactly. Now it would just be, we'll make it a purple version of the record, and that you'll make it buy it twice. That's what this was. So three nights, and we'll talk. We can talk. There's tapes of all 3 nights. The most interesting thing I think about the 3 nights is that one of the nights is just a fully acoustic show, basically. They opened each of the 3 shows with the same 3 songs: Have You Seen Me Lately, Richard Manuel Is Dead, Mr. Jones, which they did for basically like several months there. That was basically what they were opening with. But if you
2 of those tracks don't even make the record.
2 of those tracks don't make the record.
Right.
And it's interesting, you listen to the 3 nights, the fifth, it's totally different versions of those 2 songs.
Mhm.
So this is part of where the band was, I think, in 2003, was that the catalog that they were playing was not the most massive of the like catalogs of the over the years of their touring. But from like a night to night, like things were getting interesting perspective. This is like, again, literally it's completely different versions, which I think is fascinating. This is kind of where I have an interesting relationship to this record just kind of in general, because I feel like I was listening to the tapes so much at this point that I feel like this record barely registered for me. Like, I know I own the record, but I was kind of like, well, I got to listen to the next night's show. And I was, because this is kind of 2003 is when I started. I had high speed internet in college, which was great, and so I was downloading tapes and listening, like the 2003 shows. I was telling Eric as I was listening to this, I'm like, this, like, I can smell my college dorm room listening to these versions of the song. I'm like, oh yeah, how did I feel listening to this for the first time? Yeah, somewhere in like 2003 or 2004. I don't know, where were you, Kyle, like when you were here, like with your band, the band around this time?
Yeah, and it's funny to hear you say that. It barely registered. My relationship with this album has to do with my relationship with Live Across the Wire, because I think it is one of the greatest documents of all time. So it became very hard that if I was going to listen to one of their live albums, what am I going to be listening to? Now, of course, it has the plus because there's more songs from more albums, on this one, on Amsterdam. But I think I did the same thing. That's really typical with any fandom for any band, to have the 10-year rule. It's a bane in a band's existence. Yeah, you have to overcome the 10-year thing. And what you have is band fatigue, in different ways. Sometimes that means you drop out altogether, and if you get lucky, the band sticks around where you come back later. And sometimes it means that you're just listening to them in a different way, right? So,
Yeah.
whereas you and I was doing the same thing with Pearl Jam. It's like I was doing, of course, they released every single one of their shows, and I was maxing out my credit cards to make sure that I could buy every one of them too. So I, in the stuff that they would officially release around that time, it was kind of the same thing. So I completely get that. I have listened to it on and off through the years, just randomly here and there. And I'm always so pleasantly surprised. Because one of the great things with Counting Crows here is the evolution of the songs live.
Yeah.
And there are some songs that continue to find new life. And I think there are some songs that you can go, I think that one kind of hit its peak right there, or something like that. Whereas I really do love certain parts of how they do Rain King now, where it's got where the band drops out and it's, the whole thing. But there's also something about, I think they hit the pinnacle of the rock version on this tour. right here.
Mhm.
Like, so when I do listen to it, like there are those moments I'm like, oh yeah. But at the same time, and I'm looking at the track list, they're just like Catapult. It's top 3 song for me, but I'm gonna go back to Live Across the Wire, or something like that. It's
Yeah.
just
It's interesting because I was listening to the tapes from the other shows and going like, should they have replaced, like, did they get the track list right for
Mhm.
this? And it's kind of hard because there's a lot of other great stuff on these shows. Um, but to your point, there's a lot of other great stuff where you're like, oh man, there's the acoustic "Have You Seen Me Lately?" How'd they leave that out? And you're like, well, it's on Across the Wire, and it's
Yeah,
better. And you're not going to repeat that. Same with Angels. There's an acoustic "Angels the Silences," and an acoustic "Mr. Jones." But like,
I tell
what's
you
the
what,
right answer? It's Across the Wire for those.
yeah, I would have flipped. First off, the fact that they've actually never put Mr. Jones on a live album yet. Like, am I wrong about that?
Other than Across the Wire, the
No, right. So the
yeah,
VH1 version, yeah, and I
yeah, yeah,
guess I'm talking about the full band version. Like,
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
never made it beyond
Well,
that.
I guess
And
the August when they did Town Hall, the August
yeah,
album, there it's on there.
But that was after this, right?
yeah,
That
I'm
was
sort of not
after.
counting that too much, just because it's bonus. What? Yeah, I'm going to debate myself on that one in real time here. Um,
No, I agree
um,
with you on that,
but
Kyle. That
but but the version of Mr. Jones that didn't make this album from the
Mhm.
tapes, that's a really good version
Yeah.
that I think I would like to have heard. Same as I've sort of got a weird relationship with Four White Stallions, especially in contrast to Blues Run the Game. I would have preferred Blues Run the Game on
Yep,
there.
yep.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that.
Yeah. I might have gone Mercy. Mercy's on there, and that's a they're crushing that song at that point.
yeah.
I can't kind of can't believe they didn't put that one on there instead of, I think, although again, there's a lot where you could kind of argue a little bit, but it's not the only thing that I kind of can't believe is that they played Speedway 2 of the nights, and Speedway is awesome and they were playing it pretty well. And Good
Yes.
Time is on this record. And if you could have swapped Speedway for Good Time, in my book, that's a pretty wide gap there. You could have really, it's like a 10% improvement of the record if you swap Speedway for Good Time. And they're kind of the same in the same way, pacing wise, you could have
Uh-huh.
swapped it in there. Um,
Now, listening this time, I'll also say that you know, Rain King into Richard Manuel is Dead is so perfect on this album that I find myself, and I only realize that after I'm like listening this time around, like when I hear Rain King live, I almost expect to hear
hmm.
Richard Manuel
Hmm.
out of it, because for me, it's so perfectly done on this record.
Yeah.
I think they did nail those moments, here and there. So
Yeah.
I
Which is, because that's a construction, right? They Rain King
Mhm.
didn't open any of the shows and it did not go into Richard
They felt
Manuel.
it too. They're like, it's going to work better.
Exactly. This works. Yeah. Well, the acoustic Rain King, I think, is one of their great openers. I was actually kind of surprised. I was like, oh, it didn't actually open a show, because they've opened a lot of shows with like acoustic Rain King.
Mhm.
And I also think this is a pretty unique version. I don't think I've listened to a lot of Rain King alts in my life. I don't think this, if he sung something like this one or two more times, I guess it wouldn't shock me. But
Mhm.
it's certainly not a common Rain King alt. Um, whereas the other two they played over the course of the shows are Thunder Road, which they've done a million times, and Oh Susanna, which again they've done a million times. So I was like, that's also a good call, because you have the more, everyone can go find the other ones.
Sure.
You know what I
Throw
mean?
us
You
a
can go.
bone here.
Yeah, exactly. That's a nice bonus for everyone.
I'll give a different take, because and this is why I have Chris on, because Chris is the live guy. That I didn't have the official bootlegs, because I think I said I missed the order of them and I was traveling. YouTube didn't have it. I was just not a live music collector for whatever reason. I just liked official studio albums. So because of that, this was like the first sense of live music that I had heard so much about outside of those TV recorded shows,
Mhm.
by who owns that? Viacom at the time? I forget.
Mhm.
Um, and I would have swapped, right, Mr. Jones with Rain King, because we did have a Rain King acoustic and Across the Wire. And I agree with you. I would have swapped that Blues Run the Game with Four White. Well, Chris knows I like Good Time, so I would have kept that. But but I would have added, maybe a couple more Desert Life. But what I thought was amazing about the track list is that it, except for Rain King acoustic, correct me if I'm wrong, but none of those other songs were released in the prior release, right? That they weren't in the Across a Wire in this version, right? Because even Catapult was just the acoustic version, did not have the hard version.
Right.
So to me, I was like, oh, they did that on purpose, and that's why they left out Long December and Round Here. This is in my mind. I don't know if it was the reason for it. Is that, oh, we already have that. And I was surprised by Mr. Jones. So I thought this was so I thought that was pretty unique. Oh, one random thing about the album is, I don't know who realized this, and I think I heard it once and had forgotten, is that the cover artist is the same one who later did all the art for Somewhere in the Wonderland.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that now that you say it.
Yeah. And I remember, and I think on when Adam talked about Somewhere in the Wonderland, he briefly mentioned that, but you could see. So I almost don't like that, because I like that every album is very unique and has a new artist. And I love all the cover artwork. So, what I think is interesting, and why Good Time is an interesting choice, Chris and Kyle, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe except for Perfect Blue Buildings that they don't play much anymore, but that the non-single songs that they play here, which would be Richard Manuel, Catapult, now Goodnight LA they don't play, and I love that. We can talk about that later. Catapult, Miami, Good Time, St. Robinson, Goodnight Elizabeth, and Hard Candy. So that's a big chunk of the albums are still songs that they play pretty regularly to this day.
Yeah.
Even if they're not much. So that to me was kind of interesting. I was like, wow, even Richard Manuel, they still play pretty frequently. And this was the first. So anyway, that was just one observation I had. I didn't know if you wanted to. Sometimes when we do this, Kyle, we go through like 3 songs at a time and say, does anybody, you kind of did this a little with the Rain King, Richard Manuel, and Catapult. So Kyle, it's interesting. I thought that, because this is kind of the version of Catapult that they play now. Right. And where they add that extra drum part of bum, bum, bum. And I love this version. And this to me was when it first appeared. Now, I don't know if it did appear, but it's definitely different than the Recovering and very close to what we hear still nowadays.
I mean, I'll never, ever complain to hear it. I want to hear it every time.
Yeah.
We're only splitting hairs here, really, about, preferences.
Did you say on the podcast, and I agreed with you if you did, I actually think Catapult's their best opener in all their albums. I agree with you. And 100%. It's like, we're being different.
Those keys come in. Yes. I mean, that's everything. Yeah.
It's one of the most unique songs, and it's so different. And I was like, you just know right away that.
I mean, the opening lines, all of a sudden.
Yes.
It's like Joshua Tree. When you get the first line is "I want to run."
That's
and the streets have no name. Yeah. It's one of those moments right there. Yeah.
So I guess just to let you know, when you say that stuff on the podcast, I'm like, yes, God, finally someone told him that's the opener that I love a lot of their openers. So then we go into and we briefly touch on this Goodnight LA, Four White Stallions in Omaha.
The full band version of Goodnight LA, which they dropped pretty quickly after this. I mean, he played it on piano into Long December a lot over the next few years, but like the band version of Goodnight LA disappeared pretty quickly after this. It would pop up. It's popped up occasionally, but so it's nice that they have a proper recording of that. I think it sounds great. I think they should. Yeah.
And Kyle, I think it was also on your podcast that he mentioned by name that a couple of songs that he said, oh, I wish that if I played these songs that the crowd would go nuts. And I think he mentioned Goodnight LA as one of those. Like he thinks that if maybe, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but like if I was Bruce Springsteen, Goodnight LA would be one of the songs people want to hear but through more casual fans, they don't have that deep dive relationship with me right now, maybe ever. So
it's an incredible song. Because words, I'd like to see it right next to Los Angeles.
Yep.
As often as possible. Okay. Why aren't we doing that?
Yeah. So why are we doing either of those 2 songs? I'm getting Los Angeles is a great song. We should play that.
I did talk about Los Angeles a little bit because we do quote a little bit of Los Angeles around the house.
Yep, and he mentioned about
street walking and skinny girls and tacos and all that. Yeah,
but it's funny.
Have you ever heard there's a longer version of that? That's where it just keeps going. The talking.
Really?
Yeah, there's like a maybe like a demo or something where it just kind of keeps going in that vein.
I'd love to hear that. Yeah.
He talked about Sundays and Los Angeles on your that's I just
Mhm.
love that because who
Mhm.
talks about those songs? Oh, I love it. And then out of the he made Hanging. I guess did he mention Hanging Tree? Yeah, he said
We talked
he,
about 1492 because it's
which I love.
maybe arguably the hardest rocker, at least the hardest rocker they had done until
Yeah, that and
this record
Cowboys
with Mark.
are
Yeah,
his two
yeah, right.
probably
Yeah,
angriest kind of
yeah,
hard rocker. Oh
yeah,
yeah. Um yeah. And he oh no, I mentioned it a couple times on the podcast. He randomly played 1492 when I saw them in England and I couldn't believe it. That was the first time he played it in years and just played it one night.
yeah.
The so yeah, okay. So on the next one we have so 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, Omaha. This version, right? He like now, even back then, he doesn't have the audience. Right now, he always has the audience singing on certain Omaha. I don't think then he did.
Well, I
Miami,
also
of
wonder with
course.
that if the mic crowd wasn't mic'd. There were some things as I was listening.
You
I'm
get
like,
Goodnight Elizabeth with the mic crowd.
that's
Yeah,
true, and the crowd is very loud for that. So yeah, maybe it would have been fine if the crowd. Maybe it's just the Dutch love Goodnight Elizabeth more than Omaha.
Well, one thing I noticed, Chris, is I was going to say this. Listening both on the YouTube version, I didn't get to listen to all the songs from the other versions that you or the other days that you showed, but both on the CD and on the YouTube video of those songs. I found them to be very loud for all of the Hard Candy songs,
Mm-hmm.
which I my guess on that, besides maybe the Dutch preparing saying, "Oh, this is their most recent album," I'll get it, but was
you
that
think they juice the mics?
well maybe and but did Holiday in Spain was that already a single at that point with Bluff, and then they went out and bought that CD Hard
I think
Candy.
that's later.
Okay, but maybe that song was a single. I'd have to look that up. But by yeah. Anyway, that was one thing that came to mind. I could be wrong. Um,
I think they're just really popular in the Netherlands. I mean, there's
okay,
and I think they sing. Technically it was May of 2004 apparently when that was released. I don't know when Bluff's version.
okay,
Um
okay. So that was
but
after this because this was
yeah, but
03.
cuz there's a version from like 2002 of Goodnight Elizabeth where the crowd just kind of takes it. And Adam at the
Okay.
end is like, I was gonna bring it back to the sad part, but I didn't. I mean, everyone was so happy singing this, so I just felt we couldn't. Let's just end it. Because the crowd really, we'll get there in a second, but the crowd really just takes some of these songs.
Oh yeah.
Um, so good call, I guess, in recording
Right.
in Amsterdam because that's a in terms of crowds singing crowds, I very few are better. I think
The and then it gets
Irish
to
maybe. I don't know.
then it gets to maybe the most interesting track. I don't know the Amsterdam's version of Chelsea. I would say, which is Hazy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we skipped
The
Miami,
oh yeah, sorry, skip Miami. Right, right.
and
Please.
I only brought us back there because I love Miami on this record.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I'd wrote down the note that I had in my head as I was re-listening to the album yesterday. His something about his vocal take on that one.
Yeah.
Just the passion that comes out of that. I don't know if it's any different than any other thing he did at the time, but I feel it on that record, on this one. You know,
And Chris, wasn't that about the same time that I say his best performance of my like? I do think Miami peaked, I guess, at this era or something, and the crowd was always into it and jumping because isn't that Pink Pop performance I always
Oh,
reference
there's a Pink Pop.
Miami?
Yeah, Pink
I
Pop would
think
be
that
a
was
few months later from this.
I think it
After
was a
this,
few
yeah.
months later, and the crowd would be jumping up and down because it just crescendos into
yeah,
something great. So you're absolutely right on that,
yeah,
Kyle.
Yeah, they're
incredible
already
take on it.
clapping, by the at the beginning too. They're really
Yeah,
getting charging them up.
Yeah, that's great. So yes, Hazy, the unique song written by was it him and Gemma Hayes? Is it Chris? That
Yes.
an Irish, I guess, somewhat famous Irish singer. And I think I mentioned before that I was able. So one piece of Counting Crows trivia is that in was it Washington Square
Hmm.
when he mentions Ballyporeen, that is her hometown.
oh, cool.
Yeah.
So that is a small town in Dublin, and I guess he visited there because of her. So if everybody ever wondered what that reference was too, but Hazy. So I definitely have seen him interviewed. Where now, how many times did he record to perform
I
this?
think this is just
Just
the one.
one, right?
I think
Wow.
this is
And
the only one.
and he said he'll never do it. He said he tried to record it once or twice, and it didn't. Or he tried to recreate it, and he didn't think it was as good. And he said, "This is it. I've made a decision. I'll never touch it, even though it's a great song." So it's kind of a and I think he liked that it was a bit of a mysterious one-off. He probably could do it if he wanted to.
Here's how I feel like a really bad fan right now. because I appreciate every bit of that,
Yeah.
and you want that stuff,
Yeah.
and that song just kind of comes and goes for me. It's just like,
Oh,
oh
really?
yeah, no, I heard it. It's like, oh, that's good. That's good. It's
Oh, that's funny. See,
Yeah.
I feel the same way that I felt about Chelsea, even though Chelsea's longer and has the horns. I
uh,
don't know why. I love Hazy, but
yeah,
yeah,
it's lovely. I mean, don't get me
yeah,
wrong. It's
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just sort of. Yeah,
yeah. That's funny. I know
but
what
I
you
love
mean.
that he talked about like that was it, man. It's so special, and I go,
Yeah.
oh, cool. Well, good for you, buddy.
Well, and also I think it works. I'll split the difference here. I think it really works as what it was here, which is a Long December intro. Because it
Mm,
goes in live, it went into Long December and
right.
they cut that part. Um,
Oh, okay.
it's there's sort of these things of like him at a piano before Long December, and those just sort of work. And I think it sort of sits nicely with the covers he's done, right? The one and Live Forever and um yeah, I like it, but it's also interesting around this time there were other things that he was sort of playing kind of by himself on piano that ended up going on the next record, like Washington Square, on a Tuesday in Amsterdam is almost like a year to the day from this stuff, which was around for a while before
Mm.
it came out. And I think he really, again, like only played it once on piano. So it's something I guess he was maybe toying with, right? Of these just kind of playing things on piano and seeing where it goes. And I guess this one kind of um didn't go anywhere. I also kind of wonder, because I think he said that they were romantically involved in some sort.
Mm.
I don't want to remember the details. Certainly, I think he talks about like Washington Square was about like texting or whatever version of texting existed in 2003. And so I also kind of wonder if it was one of those things where it was like, I don't really want to go back and finish this now in the same way
Sure.
that. So I will say, going back to our conversation earlier, the one buried thing that I think is a mistake is Barely Out of Tuesday. But I think he said specifically, he's like, I didn't want to finish that because I worked on it with Courtney Cox and then we broke up and I didn't want to. But Barely Out of Tuesday is a great song. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
there's great. That's a
He
great
could
song.
get it there. He could get it there.
Yeah, that's if he wanted to.
Now, if they had left, if Hazy on this album had been left as the intro to Long December, as it was on the
Hmm.
tape, I might have had a completely different relationship with it. And
Yeah.
I don't know. But
Interesting.
yeah, because there are those moments, of course, as we're talking about with other songs, where the whatever it becomes an intro to it for a while, and I always love those moments. So I wonder if I would have had a different relationship with this song had it been left intact as it was in the show.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's super interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
So more controversial than I thought because every so often I see posts about Hazy's the most underappreciated song by Counting Crows. Okay, great, but that's cool. I wanted to put. By the way, so because I was living in Ireland recently in 2022 for a little bit, Kyle, and I think only about that time I realized. I mean, Ballyporeen is like some town of like 100, 200 people in the
Yeah.
middle. It's not a big city, but I almost thought about going there to do my Crows bucket list. I did walk through the park mentioned in yeah. By the way, that in Saturday night, Sunday mornings in Ireland. But okay, so here we go. The next three songs: "Good Time," "St. Robinson's," and "Perfect Blue Buildings." We already talked about "Good Time." For me, I'm just going to say that I thought this. I love St. Robinson. I thought this was. I think this is almost maybe I think it's the highlight of the album for me.
Mhm.
And because I love this song so much and always have, especially live. I almost think it's a better song live. But he hits the he. I think this is one of the few songs he has trouble hitting the super high notes at the end nowadays, and he kind of in the last crescendo he does it a little differently now, and I think this is just perfect.
Yeah.
So to you too.
His vocals are so good all through this record.
Yeah.
Maybe his peak moment on his vocals, in fact, around this era. Um, I agree, and St. Robinson. I'm with you, man. I love Good Time. I've got no problem with Good Time. It's a mood. It's it's not something I would have expected, and I don't even know that I would have made that decision. But I'm never mad when I get to it. And that's one of the songs, by the way. I don't think there's a moment where I went like, oh, I want to listen to Good Time. I'm gonna put that song on.
Mhm.
But when it comes up, I shut down. I
That's how
love it.
I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like that and St. Robin's, yeah. And
And, and Perfect
Perfect
Blue
Blue
Buildings.
Buildings is, every time. It's again, I'm never gonna complain about
Terrific.
that one. So
It's a great
It's a terrific
version.
take. Yeah, it's a great version.
It's
He had they weren't doing around that time the outro thing, which they went back to a few years later, and it's hard for me to hear it now without the "Sometimes It Snows in April" part because I like that so much. But it's sound great. One other thing I noticed is I was like kind of listening to the other tapes. They played over the course of these shows pretty much all of August, save for Raining in Baltimore and Ghost Train. So in that slot, yeah, could you have put Sullivan Street? Sure. Time and Time Again, it's a great version. So all those songs are played and they sound great, but at the same time, there's a little bit of like I don't miss any of them because again, they did the whole record and released it a few years later. So it's not like we're lacking for a great live take of any of those songs. Nor is there great. I mean, they have Rain King. They do Rain King Thunder Road on that record. So like, you got a great take of that. So it's almost like a part of me as I was listening. It's like in 2006, I might have said, "Oh man, it would have been good to get more of these takes of these August songs." But in retrospect, they fixed that a few years later. And so if you want to hear those August songs, there's a great version and like a really, oh man, I'm really excited. I hadn't even thought about it. It's eventually we're going to get to talk about that record, Eric. And that's one of my favorite live albums of all time too. But anyway, we'll pause.
But that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, obviously this is a document of the Hard Candy tour.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so for it to be heavy on that, I mean, that's the issue with every new tour, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like we know that they're going to be whatever for every band. It's going to be heavy on the new record. What's going to be left behind? You know, and
it's what I still appreciate about the Crows. I mean, I know they play more hits now at the concerts than they used to. I think because when they play in the sheds and the demographic and changing things, but they still, I mean, just the fact that one tour they played the Suite every time, they still want to play. And I think I'm speaking for Adam, but I almost think he liked doing the 4 songs, then the 5 songs, because he wants to play the new songs, and now he only has to play out of a bucket of 5 instead of a bucket of 9 or 10. And then it feels like he's shortchanging. Now he's like, okay, I can play 3 of these 5 songs every night. And I think that's my guess of what he's going to do. I don't know if he'll play all 5 songs, but yeah, I appreciate that because I actually hate when when you love a band and they have a new album and then they play one song or something. And I know that they're catering to the mass audience, but okay. No. Oh, by the way, Kyle, I'm not going to say who likes what. One kind of inside joke, or sorry, ongoing joke we've kind of dropped for a while. Are you team Ghost Train or Time and Time Again?
Oh,
that's like one. That's always like a 50-50 for hardcore Crows fans. We know where we sit.
Okay, I'm gonna. This is a non-answer. I like singing along to Time and Time Again, but the mood of Ghost Train is unbeatable.
I think that's my answer too. I mean, yeah, I like Ghost Train better, but I think I like singing the Time and Time Again more. I think that's a great take on it, Kyle. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm good for. I'm here for the takes.
They're great.
I like
songs.
Singing. Like I said, maybe that's thing. I like singing more. Maybe that's the answer there.
That could be.
Ghost Train's not an easy song to sing along to. I mean, we do. No. I'm sure we do, but it's not. You know, time you just got the big chorus on it. And, yeah.
So we'll touch on. I mean, we'll mention some of the other songs that are in the YouTube. I know, and maybe the other ones. I know Chris might have his take. So the last 4 on the CD version: "Hanging Around," "Goodnight Elizabeth," "Hard Candy," and "Holiday in Spain." The only 2 things I want to highlight is I think "Hard Candy" is the second best performance for me on this, outside of St. Robinson. I mean, "Goodnight LA" I love hearing just because I love that song and Catapult. But I think this is a great. And we had just done the Hard Candy review, and it just reminded me how great that song is. And it was on all cylinders, and you could really hear how much Charlie adds to the song. It's amazing. So I love that. And "Holiday in Spain," you know, it's interesting. This was like a sign that it started the closing of the shows. The only thing that was kind of a letdown to me, Chris, is by this point, I think, or maybe after, Bluff started doing it with them. And the fact that they're in the Netherlands and Bluff is not on there, even though I think that version got recorded later, seemed disappointing to me. I mean, of all recordings, it's in the Netherlands.
Yeah, and it's so good. Oh, that version is so good. We'll have to find some context to talk about that at some point. I'm sure we have, but again. But
well, we did a little bit on the Netherlands show. Was
right.
Who wrote me, but yeah. So anyway, so Kyle, do you have any take on the last 4 songs?
On those last 4, mine are really on the other 2. I was thinking about "Hanging Around," and it's sort of that moment in the show where like, oh, okay, we're just hanging around, you know, and it's such a fun song. You have the Adam Duritz pop songs, which I count that in, you know, whether it's Accidentally in Love
Yep.
or Spaceman. I would count that in there now too. And I think Hanging
Yep.
Around to me is the best one of the pop songs.
Yep.
I say that, as a personal preference. So it's one of those things. It's another one of those times where I think, oh, I don't need to hear Hanging Around. And then they do, and it's like, fuck, man, this is so fun.
Yeah.
And everybody's clapping and doing the thing, and everybody's kind of bouncing around, and it's like, I can't not have a good time.
Yeah. Although it does probably, like, because it's the end, it's already at this point by this, in 2003, where, like, when they play it, the show's about to end. And so there's a weird tinge of like,
Yeah.
oh man, that again, because it means the show's over.
Yeah.
And it's not, again, the song's great. You're happy when, like, you're having a good time when they're playing it. Then you're like, this means that there's not much more.
Right.
Darn.
It's funny, Kyle. I actually think for album versions, I think Hanging Around clearly, I don't want to say clearly because I love Spaceman and Tulsa. I think Hanging Around, the album version, is the best of their pop songs. I almost wish on one tour they would drop, like, it's been in so many tours, and with the group, I almost like hope they kind of drop, like, I don't think they will, but like just to make room for something else,
Sure.
because I've seen it so much, and I know it's not a must like Long December, but that's just my hot take.
It's such a great riff.
I know.
And as you said, the crowd Hanging Around is so good,
And I know he loves bringing up the opening band if they're sometimes available, and then sometimes they even bring up their kids now or whatever. So
or even random. I mean, like, who's like at the Carl Perazzo, the guy from Santana, play just like, there's a version of like Hanging Around from last year where this guy's just like going off on percussion. You're like, well, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
I didn't know I needed that. That's terrific.
So I'm not much of a fan of Accidentally in Love. So I'd rather hear Hanging Around.
Mm-hmm.
New Frontier would be cool because it's rare, but I'd still rather hear Hanging Around. It kind of, that's what it comes back to for me. It's like, yep, happy to hear Hanging Around. Never said
it.
Yeah. Although that is one of the songs that was left off, was that they did play New Frontier one of the evenings. It's there. They could have put it on there. Yeah. They played New Frontier. Yeah. It sounds pretty good. I'm not a huge New Frontier fan, but I was like, it sounded great. They played it awesome.
Well, speaking of their pop songs, on the YouTube video, which has 12 songs, I'll quickly mention for those listening.
Oh, before we get to the YouTube thing, we should talk about it. This is an awesome version of Goodnight Elizabeth. The crowd totally takes it. And the It's All Right alt is great, and there's some extra stuff in there at the beginning. But like, just the crowd taking that song is so. I love it whenever that happens. It's such a great. It's so great. I one of
right from the beginning too. Like, he gives it to them right from the beginning, and they're there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I love that even like the chorus, like, he's trying to figure out how much to sing because he knows, like, he will sing differently than them, and he's like, this is really good. Like, there's an awareness already of like the crowd is really awesome, and so how much to sing and how much not to sing. But that's a killer Goodnight Elizabeth version.
It's one of the best. I agree. Yeah,
I agree. And Kyle, if you didn't know, Chris, that's one of his favorite songs.
Oh, I'm right.
It's in your top 5. So
it's top 10, maybe top 5.
Yeah, I think it's also because it's one of the quintessential kind of Counting Crows songs. True. That it's like, if you have the sort of like emotional relationship to this band, and I can't imagine how you wouldn't appreciate if you wrap yourself in daffodils, I'll wrap myself in pain. If you're the Queen of California, I'm the King of the Rain. Like, if you like, I can't imagine who connects to this band that doesn't go, oh yeah, that set of lines. Yes. I also like in this version, I'm always a fan of when Adam does the things where he'll kind of like respond to himself. And there's in this one, the Some of Us Are Clowns. That's me. Like, yeah. It's good. It's great.
Yeah, it's the opposite of that. You want to meet a boy who looks like Elvis. It ain't me.
Yeah, it ain't. Yeah,
right.
He ain't not Elvis, but he's a clown. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's true. No, yeah, I agree with that, Chris. I think from that album, especially because it's sold, and it sold a lot of that. Maybe Goodnight Elizabeth and Catapult are very quintessential Counting Crows for more hardcore, not just the singles fans. Okay, so but yeah, those listening, you don't have to dig into the Alive. You go to the there is a YouTube video, and some of the songs are the same. It's exactly 1 hour. There's 12 songs on that. and I think half of them are exclusive to the video, which would be starts with "Have You Seen Me Lately," and they were so pumped up for this, like they were filing on all, and I love that. As I mean, for that, I guess it'd be hard, and I'm sure it's hard to sing, but for them to start this tour or any tour with "Have You Seen Me Lately" before they get too old, the rocking version would make my decade probably.
Yeah, that's great, and that's one of the few things I was like, it would have been nice if they found a way to slip that into the album somewhere, because they're playing it really well around this time. I actually really like the acoustic version is great again, but we have the Across the Wire, the sort of between the mid tempo version that they were opening a lot of shows with around this time. I think is pretty cool, and it's a shame
Yes.
that's not on a record somewhere.
Yeah, and I saw Emily. Yeah, I always find it interesting, even band. I don't know how you describe it, but like Emmy was having so much fun playing this and et cetera. Even though I don't think he was on the original recording, but just seeing him loving the song and getting so into it pumped me up. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm not sure. So yeah, Mr. Jones is exclusive to that Speedway, like you said, Chris. Long December is on that one, and actually a great version. And speaking of the pop songs, Big Yellow Taxi's on there, and I kind of think that this is when they're debuting their version of it. What would you call the
Yeah,
version with the
what he
wood
called,
block
Adam
and the
called the
truck?
acoustic hip hop version. The acoustic
Right.
hip hop version, which I
You're
actually
thinking,
again they were
I
so
love it.
again. They said again how weird I think they feel about that song being such a big hit. That version, at least of that song, it is kind of odd to me that they buried this version on like a bonus track, because again, this feels like the versions sound really good, and
Mhm.
I much prefer the sort of live version to the version that became a pop hit. Um,
And this is
and
when I guess they start. They still play it that way today
yeah,
with
yeah.
the. I
Um,
mentioned before, Kyle, but I think Matt's bass on this is amazing. So one thing we didn't say is that we've said this a couple times on the podcast, but this is the few. There's that little window that both Jim and Matt were in the band. So
Mhm.
Jim had just joined, and Matt would leave the band 6 months later or something like that
no,
after
it's
this tour.
next year, but yeah, the end of
Next the next
'04.
year.
But
Um,
in the scheme of the band, a relatively
yeah,
short period of the two of them playing
Yeah.
together. Yeah.
yeah, so it's pretty interesting. But anyway, I think his bass is awesome in this, and Black and Blue, which I think you mentioned somewhere, was an exclusive to this.
Yeah.
So okay, is there any?
And
Yeah.
if you're an O Susanna fan, that version does have the Rain King with O
Oh
Susanna.
yes, yes.
So
Sorry,
if you
I put that.
and the Dutch again, a relatively good version of that, because again, the Dutch crowd just starts singing, and it's a pretty good, version. Um, it's an interesting. I think I did. You guys see the band at all in '03? Because it's an interesting year. They played 122 shows.
Wow.
It's the most they've played other than 97. It's tied with 1994. It's 97 and then 94 and 2003. The only other year that's close that hits 100 is 2000. So um it's like a really they played a lot of shows, and I feel like it's an interesting year. I know I think Eric, you
I saw
said a
him a
bunch of
lot.
the
That's kind of when I got back in. I think I'd only seen him once or maybe once before that. That was when I finally had money and time and a car and was in the country. So yeah, I was able to see them a lot.
I don't think I saw him on the O3 tour. There's been a lot of shows. I do the thing now where I see the pictures, like I was at that show. Apparently I was at that show. But I think I would have remembered seeing the Counting Crows at that point. I don't think I saw him on that tour. I don't think I did.
Yeah.
No.
The summer they toured with John Mayer, if that rings any bells. It was like they played Sheds with Mayer. They played colleges in the spring in the US.
And
And
a little bit
then
in the fall. Well, no, I guess
yeah,
that was it anyway.
maybe like
No, yeah, it
'02.
looked like the spring, right? Because that's the thing. They were touring colleges in the fall too, or something, right? Of '02. So that was just a really busy
I mean, they played a
a
crazy
busy
amount of
year.
shows. Yeah, starting from like fall of '02 through the end of '03.
Yeah,
This was the first year I saw them. I saw them at Jones Beach in this end of the summer.
Nice.
And it was delightful. They played a lot of these songs. Although they played Rain King with Raining in Baltimore, which I would take probably over all of these versions. But I'm a Raining in Baltimore guy. So but yeah, it's interesting. I feel like it's an interesting time period, it's an interesting time capsule. Well, again, and it's also really because this is one of the last big popular periods for them, right? I mean, '03, '04, Big Yellow Taxi, Accidentally in Love are big songs. I mean, they've released like a greatest hits record. Geffen's pretty pumped up on them at this point. Um, at the same time, they released this record 2 years later. It's the last album on Geffen. And it doesn't have Big Yellow Taxi. It's recorded before, obviously, Accidentally in Love was written. It skips so many of the hits. It's such an interesting. I think it's a very Crows thing, right? That they went out and they released this live record that does not include a giant hit they'd had 2 years before that.
Right, it doesn't have American Girls. It
Doesn't have
doesn't
American
have,
Girls,
and it
which they
doesn't have
played one
Round
of
Here or
these shows
Mr.
too.
Jones, and it's
They
still got in the top 50 almost. So
they skipped Around Here, although they did play Round Here at these shows. It's the alt is the Van Morrison song Sweet Thing. It is like 13 minutes long. So if you had to pick, I assume it was kind of picking between Elizabeth and Round Here, and I think the right call was Elizabeth. Although I guess you could have gone, part of it, you could have done 2 discs, I guess. I don't think anyone would have complained. Although maybe Geffen was like, no, we're not going to produce 2 discs worth of this. I don't know. I don't know how much the costs
Well,
would have
that
been.
sure, no, that because it's going to cost twice as much for the consumer, and if you're not a band who can command that at the time, which
Yeah.
because
Could they?
the
It's an
songs that
interesting
you had,
period.
well, the
Yeah.
songs that you were talking about that they had on the charts, the top of the charts, were both like the adult contemporary charts at that point. Like, we're not talking about the top of the alternative charts. We're not even talking about the top of the pop charts at this point. And the adult contemporary are not the people who typically buy live albums,
right.
Yeah.
So that might have been part of that.
Yeah, and I feel like this is also around the time period where I think the cool thing was that live records are not fun, which was never my opinion, but I think I feel like I remember that magazine Blender was doing these like discographies, which I read that a lot around this time. And anytime they got to the live record, they're like, it's a live record. And it's like, no, that's the good. I mean, that's great. But I think that was sort of the common take was, it's just a live record. Obviously, we don't feel that way about Crow's live records, but or really
Just
anyone.
filler until the
As
next.
I said, I have somewhere around 300 Pearl Jam live albums, so I definitely do not feel that way. Dave Matthews too. My wife's that's hers. My wife is a Dave fanatic, and I love Dave as well. But so we've the house is packed with live albums.
I mean, there's a Grateful Dead box set over my shoulder. I mean, that's I resisted for a long time becoming a Deadhead just because I knew how many live albums, like live tapes I would have to listen to as like a tape person. I was like, that's going to be a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. It's so many. There's so
So-
many.
You were right.
There's so many.
So Kyle, I did want to ask you before did you have anything, because you're a special guest, and hopefully we can have you on again sometime. But we would. Do you have any take either on anything we talked about today, or just something else about the Crows that you either just wanted to talk or ask a question? And that's, if not, save it for next time and put it on the side list.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll think of something 5 minutes after we get off.
No, that's
here.
fine.
But it just goes back to how much I love that this band exists, and without trying to get too sentimental on it, but yeah, it's like they can go that long between albums and we are still so rabid when it finally happens. They can break up an album over 4 years and we're like, thank you, sir, can I have another?
Yeah.
No, it's and the fact that it's just so good every single time. Like, we're very lucky that we get to be fans of the band, and I'm so glad that we got to talk about this album because, as we were talking earlier, it's just not one that I think about. It's not one that I go to. So to really have this time, this whole week, to just put the spotlight right on here and enjoy it as much as I have, I really, really do appreciate that. So thank you both for allowing that.
Oh, you're welcome. Do you want to, before we wrap up this episode, and I've one or two questions for you after the episode, but going back to your own podcast, do you have, and you can put Adam in there or not, do you have a couple interviews that either you want the listeners to check out on YouTube, or a couple that you are particularly, I don't know, either proud of or memorable? I don't want to say it has to be your performance, but in interviewing, but just to, do you have any like that really stick out that you want to plug?
So much, there's so many interviews in it that it sort of covers so many different genres, and of course there's the whole acting side as well.
Yeah.
So it's that generic line of there's something for everybody.
Okay.
For sure. But if you're a Counting Crows fan, and especially if you grew up with them in the 90s, I've got, boy, do I have a smorgasbord of artists for you. The REM guys, they're on there a lot, and the Pearl Jam guys, and Shirley Manson from Garbage is on all the time, and Liz Phair and Sheryl Crow and Jacob Dylan. So I have a lot of my regulars, which I'm hoping Adam becomes a bit more of. We got 3. We just need to do them a little bit more often. So
No, yeah,
But
thank
yeah,
you for
they're
yeah.
all on there. So yeah, check them out.
And thanks for dropping some particular names because I do think that as you said, there are people that like the Crows that they also like those other bands from that at that time period that were so that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us and for your interviews with Adam and yeah, I know you have to like how do I say you need to when you interview him you need to cover what he's plugging at the time generally like the new album you have to make it accessible to a wide audience but you also can get a couple inside questions that people care about, even if
And
it's
I've got
just.
plenty of those left, so there's no
All
shortage of those
right.
questions in my back pocket. So we'll
Look
get
forward
there.
to the next one then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast,
Thank you guys.
and
Thank you both.
have a great Counting Crows year. And we will talk to everybody soon. Thanks for joining us down here on Sullivan Street. Bye bye.